welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about tips for interacting with your providers. If you're brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. Okay guys, so I have my comments set up here, but then I moved it. Okay, so I have done this video a few years ago, and I haven't done it recently because it just didn't get a lot of views. However, I did a video where I was talking about what kind of industry medical coding is, and 2 people commented the same question: how do you interact with providers, Blue? And so both of these comments got a lot of likes on them as well. So I'm going to read both of the comments and then we're going to get into it. I'm going to give you all some of my tips. So here we go. All right. So the first person says, Blue, would you be able to make a video on tips and pointers on how to interact with doctors if you haven't already, which I did. I'm working on not being so shy and intimidated by others, but doctors, that's a whole nother level for me. Thank you for your content. And the other person says, even though I talk with doctors in my current job, I still find them intimidating. Authority figures, I guess. Any pointers on how to interact with them? So the thing that you need to do is first look at yourself, right? First, you need to look at yourself. And how are you looking? How are you giving off energy? Are you giving off scared energy, like I have nothing to offer and this is my boss? Sometimes the provider is your boss, or sometimes they're just in charge of the person who's in charge of you and so you're scared of them. No, you shouldn't be. You need to look at yourself as that you have a valuable skill that they need, that they know nothing about. A lot of providers know nothing about coding. That's where you come in. That's why you all are teammates. You need to start showing yourself as a teammate, not as a subordinate, because in this situation with a provider, you have a lot of skill and knowledge as a coder. And if you are still brand new, then you need to start making ways to build up your knowledge. If you're working in a specialty clinic, you need to start concentrating on learning about the disease process for that particular specialty. You need to learn more about the procedures. You need to watch the procedures so that way you can understand what these providers are going through. So that way it can make sense to you and you can give off that energy. For me, when I talk to my providers, that's the energy that I'm coming with. That yes, even though they are a doctor and they've spent 15 years, 20 years, some of them to become a doctor, and they have all of this knowledge, I still have a lot of valuable skill that they need. And I am an expert in my field. Okay? So that's the energy that I bring to them. We are in teammate mode, okay? They are not above me. They do not tell me what to do. Okay? Providers do not tell me what to do. They may want a code, but if their documentation does not support, I am not going to give them that code. We are going to discuss this. We're going to discuss why do they think that they need this code versus the code that is actually supported by the documentation. That's what I'm going to educate them on. And I'm going to bring with me my evidence to show them. Okay? But that aside, it all begins with the energy that you're bringing in. Okay? And the fact that you need to see them as your teammate. You do not need to see them as somebody that's superior to you, because that's just not the case. The best way to start by seeing them like this and bringing that teammate energy is to connect with them on a human level. Outside of coding, outside of the doctor thing, the doctor speak, we need to connect on another level. For me, the best thing that I did was I connected with my providers first with cars. When I was doing an education meeting with my partner that was in my clinic at the time, we were working together, and now it's just me in the clinic now. So, but when we were working together, we were giving a class. And in this class, one of the providers in this class asked me about my car because he saw me driving and he was asking me if I drive a particular sports car. I don't drive that car. But I started talking about my car. We started talking about engines and things like that. Well, of course, when you can connect with somebody about something that is out of the scope of coding, now the conversation's interesting. And so now we're bringing in more people into this conversation. So we're talking about cars, and everybody's getting excited because this is a room full of guys and it's all about cars, So that's how I was able to start getting that good connection. Like, okay, this is something that is outside of coding, and I could see this person as a person, and so I'm down to earth and I'm approachable, and that's something that we can connect with. It's not like, the doctor's thinking, well, I don't know anything about coding. I have to learn from this person. So I need to be able to communicate with them. And oh, by the way, she really likes fast cars. Well, I like fast cars too. And so then we can start talking about fast cars and, we're making jokes and things like that. But that's a connection thing that we have now. So if you can find a way to get another connection, whether it is connecting with sports cars, connecting with sports teams, any of those things, cooking, you know what I'm saying? Any of those things, that's going to build an organic connection that you have with those providers. And it's going to make it a lot easier for you to talk to them, because now you're not talking to them as a patient. You're not talking to them as an employee. You're talking to them as a person on another level. And so again, that's going to make that connection a little bit more solid. And it's going to be able to make them see you as a person. And then now this is not somebody that I need to tell what to do. This is somebody who has knowledge that I need. So let's work together. They're going to start to see you that way. Right? So now that you have that down, and if you say, well, Blue, I don't know, look for ways, especially if you're in the facility, that's great. If you are working remotely, it's going to be a little bit harder. But if you're in the area, you can go to their facility, go to their office and things like that. You need to be looking around their office for that connection. You need to be able to look for those opportunities to be able to connect, whether it is whatever school that they went to, whatever medical school they went to, whatever state it was in, whatever. Usually they do have something about themselves in the room, in their office. So that way you can look and make that connection. Okay. Now me, I have a University of Michigan license plate in my office. It says Go Blue. You know how many times I've been harassed about that? Harassed by, I just mean by teasing, because I have a lot of doctors that I worked around with that came from Michigan. And they were like, really, Blue? University of Michigan? Why aren't you rooting for Michigan State? I'm like, oh my gosh. And so we start talking about that. Again, another organic connection. And so that's one way of building that connectedness so that you can talk to them, that you can relax and they can relax. Because again, this is something that is connecting us on a different level. All right. But you do need to look for those opportunities. And if you see them every day, that you're going to be able to see a lot of their personality and things like that if you're paying attention. All right. The other thing that I would recommend is breaking bread. So one of the things that I have known since the beginning of my career, nearly the beginning of my career, is the importance of candy, the importance of snacks and things like that. Why? Because a lot of times, I'm not saying that you need to go out and get the most expensive things. These people, these doctors will be happy to visit you if you have candy. And I just say this because this is what I did. You don't have to do this. Please don't send me any comments about, oh, they make more money. And see, people who do that, if you're concerned with, they make more money than I do. This is a very tiny investment. And not only that, you can use coupons, you can use points and things like that so that it's not so expensive. But this is what is going to break those barriers. So anytime I have an educational class or something, or in my office, I will leave out a basket that has candy in it. Because a lot of times these providers don't take care of themselves. They forget to eat. And then you're trying to sit there and educate them and they get hangry, right? Because who wants to sit here and listen to this? I just want to go to lunch, and then when they see that you have refreshments there, you have candy or whatever, they're like, oh, okay, well, let me have some of this. Well, it's going to perk them right up. Well, guess what? If they eat candy and you're there and you are talking with them and you happen to eat candy too, guess what you're doing? You're breaking bread. And whenever you break bread with somebody, again, that's going to lead to a better relationship, because now there's this relaxation and this calm, because everybody's had a little snack, everybody's had a little sweet or a little savory, and now we can focus and concentrate on what we're doing. My bear trap, it gets called a bear trap because what I would do many years ago when I very first started, I had a supervisor who turned out to be my friend, Jessica. She would say that as well. When you're trying to talk to these providers, make sure you have a little candy in your pocket and say, hey, you want some candy? That way they can pay attention to you, because again, they may not have eaten and they don't really take care of themselves. I want to sneeze. They don't really take care of themselves as far as taking a break. And so you give them a little candy that might, keep their attention. Well, I took that a step further and I put all this candy in a basket and things like that, and I would leave it out. My surgeons went down to another facility because they were having a symposium that day, and they started talking about the coders. Well, one of the fellas that was in this meeting was one of the hospital administrators, and he was overhearing them speak about me. So I had this candy basket out, and it wasn't called a bear trap at the time. I'll get to that here in a minute. So I have this candy basket, and then they come in. What they do is they see it, and they would come in and they would grab a piece of candy and they would take off. Well, then they would grab another piece of candy sometimes, and they would stand there and they would start asking me questions. Hey, I have a question while I'm here. That's great. Because if that little bitty candy is all you needed to come in and ask me a question, hey, I'm okay with that, because that's a small investment just to get you to talk to me, okay, so that we can have this conversation. So my surgeons went down to the symposium and they started talking about the coding, and they were sharing what they knew, which was considerable compared to the other facilities. And they were like, well, how come our coder doesn't tell us this? We don't see our coder. Our coder doesn't come to us. Oh, and then here goes my surgeons, right? Because this is what the administrator told me. They were saying, oh, well, she sends us a coding tip of the week, and she has this basket of candy out, so we'll go over there and we'll go snack and we'll go ask her questions, and that's how we know all of this stuff. And then they go, really? She gives y'all candy? And then they were like, yeah, all of them were saying, yeah, And then they go, well, why does she do that? And so then here comes the administrator. He goes, what do you do when you're out hunting? You lay out food, right? And they go, yeah. And so you lay out this food, and here come the animals, right? Yeah. Well, what's the most the biggest animal in the jungle? Bear. Okay, so it's a bear trap. It's a bear trap. And so she's laying out the food, and here y'all go. And this is a great way to make that connection, because now they're a little bit more calmer because they've had a little snack, and they can ask you a question, and then they can just relax. And I've had providers just come in to sit there and grab a candy and to go, I just need to, and I said, take your time, whatever you want. And I'll continue to work, and they'll just sit there and just decompress and hide in my office, which is awesome. It's awesome that they trust me enough to do that, to just be there. And they go, it's so calming in here, Blue. And I go, what? Just take your time. And I'll continue to work. And sometimes they don't say anything at all. They'll just sit there because they just want a minute to breathe. And you have to look at them like that as well. And doing that, again, brings down that level of nervousness, because then you start to relax around them. Because now these are people that you see on a daily basis. And it's not so scary. It's not so nerve-wracking. And the more they get relaxed around you, the more you can communicate in these education sessions, the more that they are becoming engaged with you. Okay, so that's the second thing. The third thing that I would recommend on interacting with your providers is that when you are coding for them, that don't let the only time that you talk to them be that because you're telling them that they're doing something bad. You need to communicate with them when they are doing good as well. And don't say, oh, good job, because I think good job sounds a little condescending. But you can tell them that they did really well and why. They always want a reason why. You don't have to make it big and flowery, but you do have to get right to the point and tell them what was it that was really good about their note. Did you have to raise that level? Maybe they coded themselves a 99213, right? But you're looking at the documentation and it's actually supporting a 99215. And you get to raise that level up to a 99215. Then you can tell them, I just elevated one of your encounters from a 99213 to a 99215 because you documented that you did this and the patient this and then, this about your medical decision making and this and that and a third. And so that's really awesome. You don't have to identify the patient, but you can just tell them and be specific about what it was that elevated their level. Do you know what that does to them? That makes them feel really good. That makes them so proud of themselves. And they'll be walking around with a puffed chest because you just told them that they did really good and why. They're not going to see your compliment as, oh, they're just trying to suck up and, just give me a compliment just so that I could do what they want. No, you did something good. So now I'm going to tell you why. And for me in my clinic, I don't readily give out compliments. I give out compliments when it's warranted. I give out compliments when I see that they've done something, or I see that when I've sent out a coding tip of the week, because that's that regular communication and it's a very brief communication that's just right to the point. When I do that and I see that they're incorporating that coding tip of the week, that tells me that they are listening to me. And so when I see that they've incorporated that and their documentation has improved, like they're more conscious about, okay, I need to make sure that I document right and left. I need to make sure I do this. I need to make sure I do that. And I could see them doing that in their documentation. I'm going to give them a kudos. I'm going to tell them feedback. And I said, I saw your documentation. This was really awesome. And I'll tell them exactly what it was. And then I'll just sign off, thank you. And then that's it. It doesn't have to be, oh, hello, I hope your weekend was good. I hope everything is great with you. They don't have time for that. Get right to the point. I can't stand that, even when people do that. Like, can you please get to the point? Oh, how are you? I hope this email reaches you well. No. Do you really hope the email reaches them well? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. To me, it sounds fake. And I'm not about fakeness. I'm about like, hey, let's be real. Let's get to the point. This is what I have for you. Because again, no one has the time. There are surgeons, there are doctors, there are PAs, there are NPs, and they're going to be doing all these other things. You need to get right to the point. Okay? And in this message, if it is a well-worded message, that's even better. Because there should be no grammatical errors in this message either. And that's one of the big things that people say, oh, I don't like to write. It doesn't matter what you like. This is part of the communication. So, and especially for my folks that are working remotely, that's what you're going to be depending on is your written word. So your written word needs to be as clear and as concise and circumspect as possible so that they can understand, okay, this is it. This is what I got, And so, again, that's going to help them to feel good, that they know that they're doing right and that they're not going to dread when they see a message from you. Because there's been coders that I've seen that say, oh, well, I'm going to teach them a lesson. I'm going to send them 20 queries. No, you're not. No, you're not. Because 20 queries, you're going to burn them out. And not only that, it's going to make it harder for the next coder behind you. Because they're going to see that and they're going to say, oh, all coders are the same. And I tell my providers too, I want to be the standard for you. I want you to hold all the other coders that you get in your career. I want you to hold them to my standard. I want you to expect them to communicate with you. That's what I expect. I want you to expect that from them. You need to see that this is what a good coder is. Not a lazy coder, not a coder that's going to be so scared of you. You also, as a provider, I tell them too, I said, when y'all leave me, you better go and talk to your new coder. And then they go, haha, yes, Blue, you know, and they do. A lot of them do. And some of them will tell me, they'll call me months later and they'll say, Blue, I don't get any communication from my coder. They just send me that I'm on the bad list. That's sad. You know the loss of communication that you have there. And these are great providers. These are fantastic providers that you're missing out on because you're scared. But you can't be scared. You know, all the worst thing that could happen to you is they could yell. That's the worst thing. And only because they don't understand. But you have to give them that opportunity to want to like engage with you. And sometimes when you do make that first step, because you got to be the one to make the first step, guys. You cannot wait for them to reach out to you and to want to communicate with you. You have to be the one to put your foot forward and say, hi, I'm your coder, you know, whether it's by message or in person. But the better part is in person. If you can get in front of them and let them see your face and meet you and give them a firm handshake. I've always given my new providers a firm handshake immediately. And you go there and you're well dressed and you make that good first impression and they see how professional you are. That's what they need. That's how they're willing to open up that communication and get a really good communication going with you. But it all goes back to how you see yourself. If you see yourself as powerful because of your knowledge and your knowledge base, or if you need to work on it, then you know you're going to get there. That's going to help you to communicate with these providers. But like I said, you know, they're human beings too. And a lot of times they get fussed at. They get fussed at by administration. They get fussed at by the patients that they don't want to listen to them. They oftentimes are married and they have spouses that get after them for not being around for, you know, little Johnny's school play. The kids get upset with them and, you know, things like that. So it's nice to get a compliment and a sincere one because it makes them feel good. And then they can have that. They can have that in the clinic. And it even though I don't mean to, it happens. When I give one of them a compliment and they will run and tell everybody else what I said, you know, that, I gave, Blue gave me a compliment, you know, because they're so happy, they're so proud. Well, all of a sudden I'll see improvements in other people because they're looking for that too. They want that too. After a while, your opinion of them will matter. And not that you're looking for that, but that's just something that happens organically. They know that if I give them a compliment, it's because it's real. It's because they did something really good. And if they need to improve, they know I'm going to be right there to help them improve. And I'm going to coach them along and coach them and get them right back on track. Because sometimes it happens. They'll fall off track, but I'll be right there. And I'll watch what they do, you know, just to make sure that they get back on track. And I always tell them too, it's like, you know, when y'all leave, I want y'all to be the best at documentation. I want y'all to go in there to that new facility, wherever you're going, because that's one of the first questions that they ask you when you're interviewing. You're a doctor and you're interviewing for a particular specialty. They're going to ask you what you know about coding and billing. And when I told one of my surgeons that was leaving that, and he came back and he's like, how did you know that? I go, think about this. If they're going to be paying you all this money, you better know how to document. And I said, and so that's where I come in, because it's not just about, oh, well, my spouse is going to do the billing and things like that, so I don't need to worry about that. No, you do. Because that spouse is going to know what is going to be submitted to the insurance company. And I don't need to tell people about this story, but there was a story that was posted on LinkedIn. I don't know if they were an eye doctor. Okay, don't ask me if it was ophthalmologist or an optometrist, but I think it was an ophthalmologist. Okay, so this doctor and his spouse, the spouse ended up getting 3 years in the federal pen because she was billing, and they said she was doing fraudulent billing. Okay, I guarantee you she didn't have a coding background, but she's just going to code whatever. And it's people that think that they know and they don't know. And that's what I've told my providers too. If you go and you leave and you have your own business and you want your spouse to be that billing manager or the office manager that does the billing, you need to make sure that they take a coding class or a billing class, one of the two. And you need to make sure that they understand, preferably a coding class, because they're going to need to know that. And she ended up getting 3 years in the federal pen, and he got a $300,000 fine, that ophthalmologist. So that's the thing that you guys need to understand, is that this stuff is important, and your communication with them is going to affect their furthering of their career. Because if they understand that and they know that from you, they're always going to have that throughout their career. Okay, so that's where those communications and you them being able to trust you is going to come into. And the other thing that I will say before I wrap it up is you never tell your provider that you don't know something when you're communicating with them. You never tell them, oh, I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know. No, you never say that. Say, let me do some research on that and I'll get back to you. That's all you got to say, is I will get back to you. And do get back to them, okay? Because if they know that they can come to you with any question and you're going to find out that answer, then they will say, okay, this is somebody I can trust. But if you say, I don't know, then that means, oh, this person's incompetent. I don't need to ask them. I'm not going to ask them because they don't know. And they're always going to tell me they don't know. Okay. And then one more thing. Texas bye, right? Don't say you're sorry when you're communicating. When you are talking with them in person, whether you're emailing them, you never apologize. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't mean to bother you. I hate it when people tell me, I don't mean to bother you. I can't stand it. Then why are you even messaging me? Because can you imagine what that does to a doctor? Get to the point. Get to the point. Don't sit there and waste their time apologizing for something that you don't need to apologize for. Why are you apologizing for helping them? Think about that. I'm just saying. So, remember, get right to the point. Try to connect with them on a personal level, so that way you can make that connection. You can see them as a human. They could see you as a human. Make sure that you think about how you are projecting your energy. If you know that you are a powerful coder, meaning that you have power in your knowledge and you're sharing that knowledge with them, that's going to change how they look at you. Okay? Just keep that in mind. It will change how they look at you. But you have to give them the opportunity to be able to do that. And do not let them, if they bluster, do not let them run you off. Because for some, they will not understand what you're doing. They will bluster and they will run you off. And if you never return, if you never, try again, try a different approach to how you're helping them, then they're always going to feel like they're going to be superior to everybody else. And that's just not the case. And that's what I tell my providers too. I'm here to help you because I'm your teammate. We're going to do this together. So, with that said, I hope this helps. But yes, they're human beings too, guys. And you have a gift and they have a gift. And when y'all work together, there's nothing that you can't accomplish. I'm just saying. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If this video helped you, please like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye.